2008 in Los Angeles, a conversation between Jeff Bezos, founder and CEO of Amazon.com, and Chris Anderson, editor-in-chief of Wired magazine. Among the topics discussed is Kindle, Amazon's new wireless reading device, and all the new innovative things it can do. Book Expo America is an annual trade show for the publishing industry that includes author events, educational panels, and information on soon-to-be-published books. The event is an hour.
Well, last time I spoke here was 8 years ago, and my oldest son is 8 years old. I have 4 kids now, 8, 6, 3, and 3, and that's what makes me such a homebody. But I am very glad to be back. Let me start out I think I should turn this one too. How's that? Good. So let me read you a paragraph here. Throughout American history, presidential administrations have undergone tumultuous periods of war and scandal. I happened to become White House press secretary at a time when the administration of George W. Bush was going through both, and they were intimately related to each other. That book is sold out almost everywhere. It, of course, is Scott McClellan's What Happened. It'll be back in stock at Amazon, we think, on June 9th. And in the car on the way here, I downloaded it onto my Kindle, and it was there in less than 60 seconds. And it's one of the great things about electronic books is they don't go out of stock. Let me show you one customer's Kindle purchases. This is just a single customer. They bought all of these things. But they also bought all of these things. And I'll make the font a little smaller because they kept going. Maybe I should go to multiple columns because they kept going. And they also bought all of these things. And they bought all of these things. This customer has bought 1,076 Kindle books and still counting. Well, 3 years ago, we started working on Kindle, a little more than 3 years ago now, about 3.5 years ago. And we really wanted to capture what we thought was the essential element of the physical book, which is that the book disappears. It disappears in your hands. You aren't thinking about the glue and the paper and the ink. All those things go away, and what remains is the author's world. And it's very hard to make an electronic device have that very elegant feature that physical books have. Physical books are in roughly the same form that they have been for 500 years. Gutenberg, if reincarnated today, would more or less recognize a physical book and clearly know what to do with it. He'd be astonished by modern printing technology, to be sure. But the book itself, he would recognize that artifact and probably, I suspect, be quite pleased that it had lasted 500 years. And anything that lasts 500 years is not easily improved upon, and yet that is the goal that we've set for ourselves. But the first step in improving upon something is to try and capture the essentialness of the thing. Why has it been so loved and so useful for so many centuries? And I do think it's the ability to disappear and get out of the way. In an electronic device like Kindle, one of the things we knew we had to do is make it very light. So it weighs 10.3 ounces. If you try to read for long periods of time with a laptop or a heavier device, you get too much hand fatigue. It's not really convenient. It breaks you out of the flow. Same thing with eye strain. You need a paper-like display. The Kindle uses electronic ink. For those of you, the first time you see electronic ink displays, you do a double take. They are completely unlike any other kind of computer display that you've encountered. They have to be readable in the sunlight. They have to be low power consuming. This is important for a couple of reasons. One, I can't imagine anything more likely to break you out of the reader's flow than your device running out of battery power right in the middle of your reading session. That would be annoying. Second of all, if devices consume a lot of energy, a lot of battery power, they get warm. And that really breaks you out of the flow too. If you've ever sat with a laptop in your lap for any length of time, They actually make you start to sweat a little bit. They're very uncomfortable. You certainly can't curl up in bed with one. There are other things too, very tactical things. The device can't beep at you. I had a microwave oven in my house at one point that when it finished cooking food, it would beep at me once a minute until I opened the door. I couldn't believe it. I call those devices self-important devices. And it's very important for devices not to be self-important. They're supposed to get out of our way. Well, if you can capture that essential feature of the book, that's great. But you've got to do something more, because books are so good and you can't outbook the book. You can't try to clone the book. You have to figure out some things that you can do with the new technology that could never be done with a physical book. We've found several of those things and incorporated them into Kindle. One of them is that there's a big dictionary. The paper version of this dictionary weighs over 8 pounds. It's resident on Kindle, and you can look up words on the fly very, very easily. I have discovered that my vocabulary is not nearly as good as I thought it was. Normally, of course, I would find a word, and I'm too lazy to get up and go find a dictionary or go to the web and look up the word on the web. So I will just sort of guess the meaning of the word from context. And I was living in a nice fantasy world where my contextual guesses were fairly accurate. The Kindle has disabused me of that notion. It's very nice to be able to look up words on the fly. You can make margin notes, underline things on the Kindle, and write margin notes. The key thing is that those margin notes are stored on the server side in the cloud, so that as the problem with margin notes in a physical book is that retrieval isn't easy. I make margin notes. Most of my margin notes are actually underlinings and exclamation points and a few words here and there, but I can rarely go back and find a particular margin note. With Kindle margin notes, because they're stored on the server side, one, you can never lose them, and two, you can search for your margin notes. If you remember a key word or in the text that's related to the margin note, you can search on that and find things. You can change font sizes. I read on the treadmill, and it's very nice to be able to increase the font size on the treadmill to be able to read. But the whopper of features that we put into Kindle that simply cannot be done with a physical paper book is that you can think of a book and 60 seconds later have that book. We have wireless on Kindle. It's EVDO wireless, which is the fastest wireless radio in the United States. It's 3G. It's the same network that you use for advanced cell phones. And we hide the complexity of the cellular network and the cellular business relationship from the customer. So when you buy your Kindle, we bundle the wireless download costs into the cost of the content. So when you spend $9.99 to buy a book, that includes the cost of wirelessly getting that book to your Kindle. You do your shopping directly from the store. So the traditional way that you would think about a device like this is that you would have to connect it to your computer. You'd go to your computer, buy the e-book that you wanted on your computer, connect your e-reader to the computer, and then use a USB cable or something to move the book over to your reader. It's not very convenient. With wireless access, that's kind of advanced cell phone wireless access that's built in, completely hidden, no 2-year contracts, no monthly data plan, completely hidden, hiding all of that complexity from the customer, you can just go to the store, which is resident on the device, search for what you want, browse, find what you want, push a button, and less than 60 seconds later, that title is there and available for reading. It's not just books. We also have newspapers, magazines, and blogs that you can read. And those subscriptions are delivered automatically overnight so that when you wake up in the morning, your newspapers are already waiting for you on your Kindle. You can also email yourself personal documents. So every Kindle comes with an email address. And if you have a Word doc, a manuscript, or something else, and you want to read it, you can email it to your Kindle, and it'll be there for your reading. Here's some feedback we're getting. We hope for good feedback from customers. Dear Mr. Bezos and company, this is Gutenberg cubed. I can't tell you what a frustration it has been for many years because I travel a lot on business. What a frustration it is to be where my library is not. Your work on this project will yield such personal and intellectual benefits for me. I'm truly very appreciative. We liked that one, and we thought this next one was even better. The Kindle's up there with Haagen-Dazs and sex. It's brilliant. It just feels like the future. Beyond that, however, I marvel at its design, interface, and delivery system. Congratulations. This is Stephen King, who gave us the kindest compliment we could have received in Entertainment Weekly reviewing the Kindle. For a while, I was very aware that I was looking at a screen and bopping a button instead of turning pages. Then the story simply swallowed me, as the good ones always do. I wasn't thinking about my Kindle anymore. It became about the message instead of the medium, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And that was the reason this is the kindest compliment anyone could give us is because that was our prime design objective with Kindle when we set out 3.5 years ago. We underestimated how much demand we would have for Kindle. We sold out in the first day, and we scrambled for 5 months to get back in stock. I'm pleased to report that Kindle is in stock after us increasing our manufacturing capacity. It is also, just this past Tuesday, now $359. So we've reduced the price from $399. We're excited to be able to do that. We want to make this device as affordable as we can. Why are readers excited about Kindle? I'm about to share with you something so obvious that you may at first be tempted to dismiss it, and I would ask you not to do so, because I think that the reason that readers are so excited about Kindle is because readers love to read. And anything that makes reading easier is very exciting to people. The fact that you can download a book in less than 60 seconds is a big deal for readers. It brings the kind of convenience that BlackBerry users have gotten accustomed to with regard to email. It brings that kind of convenience to people who love to read books. Overall, well done. I found that I can indeed lose myself in the book while reading on my Kindle. I should also compliment you on the way you streamlined buying books to enable even more impulse buying. But I'm not sure that's necessarily a good thing given the current economic climate. Reading books is so much more fun with a Kindle. I'm getting addicted quickly to downloading, buying books. Love the Kindle. It's a gateway drug. I'm reading more and buying more books. Well, one of the things that now that Kindle has been out for 6 months, we have some data that we can collect, and I can share with you that after purchasing a Kindle, customers continued to purchase the same number of physical books that they bought before buying their Kindle. But altogether, if you take the Kindle books plus their physical book purchases, their book purchases on Amazon increased by a factor of 2.6. Something that really I find very startling is that just 6 months in, Kindle purchases for this universe of 125,000 titles that we have available on Kindle, Kindle book units are 6% of Amazon's physical book units. And keep in mind, to make sure that that's in the right context, we've been selling physical books on Amazon now for 14 years. And in 6 months, we have 6% as many Kindle sales of this universe of titles as we have physical sales. But we're very excited about that, to have that at this early stage. Well, my 2 favorite ways to use my Kindle is, number 1, while drying my hair in the morning, I used to dread the wasted 10 minutes each morning drying my hair. But I so wish I had this problem. Now I look at it as 10 more minutes of me time that I can spend reading my book, catching the morning news, or reading a new blog. And 2, while cooking dinner for my family, I now have the ability to multitask and turn a mind-numbing task into more me time as I stir with one hand and read with another. The Kindle doesn't turn off or lose my place when I go to the fridge, take a phone call, or help my daughter draw a penguin. Beautiful. We're going to show a quick video. Can somebody go ahead and cue that video, please?
The point that I realized that I had moved from skeptic to absolute believer in this device was with my daughter Maddie, who's 12. We were on the plane, they hadn't quite shut the doors, and I thought, well, she's going to want something to read. And I went on to Amazon with the Kindle, downloaded a bunch of Meg Cabot books that Maddie had wanted to read, and stuck them on there. It's like having a genie who you say, Genie, go and get me this book, and they come back in 30 seconds and the book is there. That in itself is amazing. But when I have the reading time, I don't have the books with me. I'm, on the flight from Beijing to Budapest, I'm going to have a lot of reading time. But I'm not going to have a backpack full of books because I can't carry a backpack full of books around with me. But I can put them all on the Kindle. And that's where things get exciting. That's the point where the Kindle suddenly, as far as I'm concerned, becomes completely worth its weight in gold.
We've been adding...
The point that I realized...
We could listen to that again. I like it. At launch, we had 90,000 books on Kindle. We've been adding books since launch 6 months ago. And today we have 125,000 books on Kindle. And this includes, roughly 100 of the 112 New York Times bestsellers. So it is the books that people are looking for. The vision for Kindle is we want to have every book ever printed in any language, in print or out of print, all available in less than 60 seconds. How cool would that be if you could be anywhere and think of any book in any language ever in print and be reading it in less than 60 seconds? I think that would be very cool. Now, I would like